In life, there are seasons that test the very core of who we are. Storms that sweep through without warning. Days that feel too heavy to carry. Moments that press so hard against the soul that we wonder if we'll ever breathe freely again. How to stay strong in tough times is not a loud call to action or a collection of catchy motivational phrases. It is a quiet companion, a wise voice that gently reaches across the pain, uncertainty, and fatigue to remind you that you are not alone, and more importantly, that you are stronger than you think. At the heart of this book lies a simple yet profound truth: strength is not the absence of struggle, it is the quiet courage to face it. The author doesn't tell you to deny your pain or to pretend everything is fine. Instead, they invite you to sit with your struggle, acknowledge it, and then rise, not in defiance, but in quiet determination. They teach us that resilience is born not from perfection, but from presence. It's about choosing to show up, again and again, even when life feels impossible. One of the first key insights offered is that we must learn to embrace the reality of pain without letting it define our identity. So often, when tragedy hits, a job loss, a breakup, a diagnosis, we internalize the experience. We start to believe that we are our pain. But this book gently separates the event from the self. You may be walking through darkness, but you are not the darkness itself. You may feel broken, but you are not beyond repair. Think of a seed buried deep underground, covered, unseen, and surrounded by cold soil. It is not dead. In fact, it is growing. Likewise, the hardest moments of our lives can become the soil from which new strength is born. The author shares stories of individuals who faced unbearable loss, people who stood in the ashes of their former lives and somehow, over time, began to rebuild. One woman lost her husband unexpectedly and was left with 2 small children and an ocean of grief. For months, she could hardly function. But slowly, through the gentle rhythm of daily life, getting up, brushing her children's hair, making breakfast, she began to find small anchors. Over time, those small actions became stepping stones toward healing. The message is clear: strength isn't about doing grand things. It's about doing the small things, especially when they feel impossible. Another deeply powerful message the book offers is the importance of acceptance without resignation. There's a difference between giving up and letting go. We often fight reality, believing that if we resist hard enough, we can force life back into what it once was. But the truth is, healing begins when we stop trying to rewind and start learning to live forward. The author tells the story of a man who lost his lifelong business, something he'd built with his bare hands over decades. For a long time, he couldn't speak about it without breaking down. But eventually, he came to understand that letting go of what was did not mean abandoning who he was. The values, the lessons, the character he built, those remained. He shifted his energy toward mentoring others, and in that space, he found not only purpose but peace. The book also explores the power of perspective. It teaches that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can shape the meaning we assign to it. Pain without purpose can feel unbearable, but when we begin to ask, "What can this teach me?" we unlock a hidden strength. It's not about silver linings or forced positivity. It's about mining meaning from the rubble. When you see your scars not as signs of weakness but as marks of survival, everything changes. There is also an emphasis on connection, the kind that nourishes the soul. In tough times, our instinct may be to retreat, to isolate. But this book reminds us that even one genuine connection can be a lifeline. The author encourages us to reach out, not with expectations, but with authenticity. To sit with someone in silence. To listen without offering solutions. To be a safe place for others and allow others to be a safe place for us. In one story, a man going through a crushing divorce finds solace not in therapy or self-help books, but in weekly coffee with his neighbor, a retired Army veteran. They hardly talk about the pain directly, but the quiet presence of another human becomes a mirror in which he slowly begins to see himself again. How to Stay Strong in Tough Times also shines a light on the importance of routine and discipline during chaos. When everything else falls apart, having even the smallest daily habit, a morning walk, a journal entry, a 5-minute meditation, can become a lifeline. These practices aren't just about productivity, they're about grounding yourself when life feels like it's spinning out of control. The author compares these habits to lighthouses in the storm. You may still be surrounded by darkness, but you know where to look. You have something steady to guide you. And perhaps one of the most comforting truths in the book is that you are allowed to not be okay. We live in a world that often demands constant optimism, a relentless, "I'm fine." But real strength is found in honesty. You don't have to wear a mask. You don't have to pretend. Allowing yourself to feel, to cry, to question, is not weakness. It's courage. The book honors the sacredness of those moments when you finally let go of the pressure to be strong and simply let yourself be human. Throughout the pages, there is also a deep spiritual undertone, not religious necessarily, but soulful. The kind that reminds you that life is more than the sum of your struggles. That there is something greater at work, even when you can't see it. The author urges you to trust the process, even when the path is hidden. Faith, in this context, is not blind optimism, it's a quiet confidence that your story isn't over yet. Another beautiful concept explored is the idea that pain can be a bridge to purpose. Many people featured in the book didn't just survive their hardships, they transformed because of them. One young man who battled depression for years eventually became a mental health counselor, helping others navigate the very darkness he once thought would end him. His story is a reminder that our wounds can become our wisdom. That the very thing meant to break us can shape us into someone more compassionate, more grounded, more alive. In practical terms, the book offers gentle guidance, tools you can use in your own life. It suggests journaling as a form of emotional release, writing not for clarity but for honesty. It recommends limiting negative input, curating what you watch, read, and listen to, because in hard times, your mind becomes fragile soil, and you must be intentional about what you plant there. It emphasizes rest, not as laziness, but as a sacred act of healing. And above all, it reminds you to be patient with yourself. Healing is not linear. Some days you'll feel like you're moving forward. Other days, it will feel like you've taken 3 steps back. That's okay. What matters is that you keep walking. By the end of the book, you come away not with a list of solutions, but with something much more powerful, a sense of calm, of clarity, and of hope. You realize that you don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to take the next right step, and then the next, and somehow, through that quiet persistence, you find yourself on the other side, not unchanged, but transformed. So if you're walking through a valley right now, if your heart is heavy and your spirit is tired, know this: how to stay strong in tough times is a companion for your soul. It doesn't promise to remove your pain, but it does promise to walk with you through it, to hold your hand when you forget your own strength, to whisper truth when the noise of fear grows loud, and to remind you that no matter how dark the night, the dawn always comes.